While Delulu is clearly not the Salulu for Kirsty, she had uploaded a Google Doc file, 31 pages, trying to expose iNabbers. But now Kirsty has come out with these allegations against iNabbers, and I had covered it in a previous video, and I was saying to myself, it sounds like she's emotionally fueled for that video, and I said maybe that was causing her to not really represent the situation factually, and that seems to truly be the case because iNabbers had just posted an 81-page Google Doc file, and he has explained the situation down to the T. So with that being said, I hope you're here for 81 pages, because that's how long it's going to be. We're going to be doing this for quite a while, but the allegations he really did lay to rest and expose the situation a little bit further, and she has clearly made half of the shit that she said in her statement up. But this is all allegedly for legal reasons, and with that being said, let's dive right into it. Responding to Kirsty's horrific lies. Kirst has posted another thread of information about me, which is horrific manipulations of the truth designed to ruin my life. Today, I am going to be responding to every single thing she said in that document and disproving all of it. I genuinely am so disgusted by some of the things said and genuinely just want this to be over. Please share this around to anyone you see calling me because of Kirsty's lies, but please don't harass anyone mentioned. Now, I feel like I should address the most serious allegations in the first document, and the main one being coercion. The Kenji part of this will be the final thing I cover, scroll to the end, due to the amount of screenshots given. Attachment to the lies I've disproven, and that's going back to his prior Google Doc files that he had released on the situation. I did make a video about that, so feel free to go and check that out. Coercion. Now I believe I have been accused of this mainly due to the fact I showed a screenshot in my previous response showing evidence of Kirsty trying to coerce me into. He provided a screenshot from the 6th of June 2023 that said, Kirsty said, can you just let me know if I gained too much weight? Is that why you didn't want to have with me anymore? He said, pardon. She said, it's just been a real confidence knock. It keeps playing on my mind because when I was super skinny, we would have all the time, but when I got a healthy weight, it stopped. And usually there is always breakups, and this is my first breakup without breakup, and I'm wondering if I'm just not attractive anymore. Please, I just want to know if I'm really not attractive anymore. Fraser, please, if my weight is the issue, then I want to know. He then continues and said, now I mentioned in my previous document how horrifically uncomfortable this made me, and I find this argument from Kirsty quite unsettling considering how a large reason our relationship deteriorated was the fact that I did not have with her for large periods of time, especially towards the ending, due to the fact that I was going through extremely depressive periods in my life. Then goes on to say Kirsty's allegations, and this is her wording here. Multiple times on this holiday, he tried pressuring me into, and multiple times I kept saying no. This caused a lot of tension, and we finally had a few nasty arguments about it. Thankfully, this was the only time he did this. And then he goes on to say, now personally, this statement is just absolutely wild to me as the evidence she has attached comes from something completely different to what that we were talking about. And here's an attachment of Kirsty's screenshot from her doc files that she had uploaded trying to expose iNabbers, and he is right here. The photo that she did attach there is of a cake and a normal conversation, nothing that should have had been attached to that statement. He continues and said, and now in these screenshots, she is suggesting because I said, let's fuck in the sauna. After this, we went to the sauna and chilled there for around an hour and had an argument because I wanted to stay in the sauna longer than our allocated time in the sauna, and it led to an argument because Kirsty did not want to do that. Pissed lots in the sauna, but I did not have sex in there. I'm not dumb. I know there was cameras in the spa and would not have tried to have in there despite making jokes about it. Me and her regularly made jokes about having sex in public places, but we never actually did, as you will see in the screenshot ahead of this. The reason I didn't want to leave is because we paid a large chunk of money and had received an entire swimming pool and spa area to ourselves for an hour, and I wanted to stay for longer. A big argue point in my relationship with Kirst was about being on time to things and leaving things on time. Sounds weird, but it was something we always disagreed on, and this was one of those times. We did not leave on the agreed time, but it led to an argument because on this, and mainly due to the fact that we had been arguing quite a bit in this week, so there was some tension. Proof coming soon. But in terms of Kirsty's proof is me saying let's fuck in the spa, which is just absolutely insane. We literally had an argument and I needed space mainly because at this point we were having quite a lot of arguments. I could say the same things, she was pressuring me here. And in this screenshot he says yes, to be honest. She says I hate you, he says I think that might be a lie. Kirsty replied proof. He said, the begging me to fuck you part might be the proof. She said, proof of this. He said, well, I don't have proof, but it definitely happened. She said, lies. I can't believe I was on top of you completely naked begging you to me and you didn't. He said, I was tired, shut up. It was like 5 a.m. and we had been in a club for 4 hours. She said, I think we were thinking of different times. He said, what part of this DM doesn't seem like her pressuring me into sex? This was one of the 1st of February 2022. Now, I should just say I don't believe Kirsty was actually maliciously here, and this was just a playful relationship stuff from her, just in my opinion. But obviously, I could spin this into anything. I have felt pressure from Kirst with sex at times, particularly with the original document screenshot about her speaking about the breakup sex. But why I'm not showing this is how easy it is to be manipulative to screenshots like what she is doing. I do believe what she is trying to do by using the spa situation here is her trying to spin the screenshots from my original document, which shows her making me feel under pressure when asking about why we hadn't had breakup sex, and using weight as a way to manipulate me into this. He continues by saying she didn't apologize for this behavior, she simply spun the truth into another disgusting accusation and said this. Him giving screenshots of me in a time where I was clearly in an unstable place mentally just further proves my point. Him picking moments without context and using them as a scapegoat when they were tiny moments in our daily interactions in person is something I am not surprised he has done. He continues by saying above is a screenshot from her document that states I was using screenshots from where she was in an unstable place mentally, but I don't think that proves her point in any way. The behavior she displayed to me was not acceptable, and it's disgusting she has tried to flip this onto me. Even with her spa message, I have messages of her saying let's climb onto a mountain and you can fuck me at the top. Is this proof she pressured me into sex? No, it's just fun sexual suggestions that most people make in a relationship. Silly sexual fantasies. And he provided a screenshot of this where she said, let's climb onto a mountain and you can fuck me at the top. He said, would have to be in another country as it might be a bit cold in Britain. She said, duh. He said, God, it is so annoying that you're not here. And she said, how so? He moves on to say, now going back to the reference of arguments we were having at the time, the argument I'm posting below was on the 11th of February, a few days before. Now, Kirsty says, I'm sorry, but you have made me feel extremely shit and I just want space for a bit. Carmen sent him my way, I didn't reach out to him. He said, I understand you want some space, but this just seems like complete miscommunication. I'm not blaming you, it's my fault, but I just need to talk to you about it calmly and not over text where it seems way worse than it actually is. She said, miscommunication or not right now, I want space. He said, okay, I'm sorry that I made come off like I was blaming you. I really didn't mean that. And with the door slamming stuff, I don't know what that was about as I didn't mean to slam anything. I was frustrated by you not replying, but that was it. I'm really sorry. Take all the space you need, but please just speak to me soon. In person, haha. He said, now this was the argument that was about miscommunication, as you can see below when I'm speaking about this with one of my best friends at the time. Now he goes on to say, we have worked out. That was the stupidest argument and we both misunderstood everything. And now she's dying of laughter. She thought the complete wrong thing. His friend said, I'm glad to hear it, man. Hope you guys have a good night and a great holiday. Then Fraser said, thanks, man. Literally every part of this argument was like a misunderstanding. She thought I went into my room and played loud music, stroping. I was doing yoga and dumbbell curls. This is so funny. He continued to say things were pretty tense in the few days, and I had a lot on my mind, hence we had argued on holiday. I decided to leave her to go get some space, as she literally refers to in these texts needing space when we previously argued. He then continued to say, because of this, at the time, I took the mentality of leaving Kirsty to have some space when we had arguments, and on holiday, we were in a one-room hotel, and the only option was to go for a walk after we argued about leaving the spa, hence I said this. And this is the screenshot that Kirsty had attached where he said, whenever you feel comfortable for me to be back, just say. But if you could make that sooner than later, that would be nice because it's effing freezing, lol. Like, soon, this is worse than I thought it would be, with question marks, and she said, sorry, I'm on FaceTime with Carmen. And then she said, I never said for you to leave, so I really don't understand why you did. He continues and he said, as you can see in the screenshots, I say I was literally leaving to make her feel comfortable, as even a few days before she left to get space. She even says in the screenshot she doesn't understand why I did this. So I think it's fair to say this is an outright lie and a fabrication of the truth. I am genuinely disgusted she would spin this lie about our sex life into such a disgusting accusation, especially considering the fact that I didn't want to have sex became such an issue in the relationship. Take the screenshot from July 2022, for example. He starts it off by saying, "Are you excited to go to the gym with me next week?" She said, "You're telling me." It's super frustrating and it actually upsets me that we don't actually have a sex life at the moment. Like, it's not everything in a relationship, but for me, it's important. And I know it's not my fault, but I am really hard on myself because it's my body that is stopping it. And are you actually going to go with me? He said it was a clear issue from the screenshot mentioned in my original document and this one that my lack of desire to have sex was a problem throughout the relationship. I am genuinely so unbelievably shocked that she tried to spin this a simple argument about timing that became more heated from tension at the time from shown arguments into such a disgusting allegation. But Kirsty is obviously not shy from trying to manipulate people into thinking bad of me. And this is one of her original Twitter posts from the situation. And she said, "The physical and mental implications I have from that relationship is again why I will not be disclosing what I went through. It is still very raw, and I do not wish for my past traumas to be pulled apart like I have seen done to Alice." And iNabbers makes an incredible point here where he says, for example, saying that there were physical implications, a tweet referring to a relationship that had physical abuse, the I'm Alex, which caused people to speculate I physically abused Kirsty, and that tweet got 64,000 views. Even more now, by the way. And then he continues with no deletion. Then she had made this tweet like kind of like an answer to everybody who was like, "That's really wrong of you to use Alice's situation to make it look like iNabbers was abusive to you and to kind of make this whole situation about you." And she said, "No, Fraser did not physically touch me. When I say physical implications, I mean the implications of the chronic stress symptoms." He then goes on to say her follow-up tweet clarifying on this after being called out on it got 6,994 views, a very smaller amount in comparison, and now people think I physically hurt her due to a manipulation of the truth. The tweet above is also directly contradicts the allegation made in the statement surrounding coercion. And then here at the top, it shows Christie's original statement saying, "When our hour was up, I said we needed to go as they come and got you if you overstayed your time." Fraser then started constantly begging me to stay longer and rubbing my legs, saying how we should have some more fun. He says, here she states I started rubbing her legs and begging her. This would suggest I put my hands on her in an uncomfortable way, yet in her tweets she says I did not physically touch her. I think all this is very much proves Kirsty has manipulated an argument into a horrific allegation and shows that she absolutely cannot be trusted. This is the second document I'm disproving her with. It is continuous and utter lies. Confinement. Now, this is an allegation I addressed in the previous document too, and something I genuinely cannot believe is even real. This is one of the wildest manipulations of the truth I have ever seen. She is trying to paint me out to be a supervillain who has always locked her up in a room. For context, this is the basis of what Kirst said. Now it shows where she said there were times when I was shut in that room, not being able to make any noise for almost 5 hours on many occasions. He would come in after filming and have a go at me for if I had gone to the toilet and flushed the loo. One time I was poorly and he had shouted at me for coughing and for being inconsiderate. I had to be so silent that he wouldn't even be able to notice that I was in the flat, and if he heard anything, I was shouted at after for not respecting his anxiety surrounding filming, and that if he couldn't film, he couldn't make a living. She continued and said when this arrangement started, he would let me know as soon as he had finished. Then it turned into him not letting me know he would start gaming instead and leaving me unaware of if I could come out or not. For hours, I would be shut in that room and not being able to get drinking water or food, tiptoeing to the toilet and trying to pee as quietly as possible out of fear for being shouted at again, and not being able to make any noise at all. This felt horrible. I felt like a prisoner in my own home. Sometimes I would get angry because if I had left my medication in the kitchen/living room, I couldn't get it. I will admit there was one time where I just had enough and very angrily got my meds and then slammed the door on the way out. He said, now Kirsty isn't wrong in one thing here. I am very uneasy with recording whenever there's people around, and I did ask her to either be quiet or to do something like walk the dog when she was. But the only time I ever left her for 5 hours, which she references, was, I believe, from this screenshot here. Now he attached these screenshots of him and Kirsty going back and forth where she said, what's going on? He said, what do you mean? She said, it's been hours. He said, oh, what? I finished ages ago. She said, what the F? You didn't tell me. I've been to say here like a lemon. He said, sorry, I just kind of thought you'd guess via the silence. She said, it's been silent the whole time. Now, whilst this was an error on my half for not coming in and telling her that I finished recording, as you can tell from the tone of the messages, it was not done from some wild malicious confinement. It was just a sticky situation where Kirsty was living in a very small flat after I moved her in to get her out of her tough spot. It was always going to be a difficult situation living together from the beginning due to the fact that our flat was so small. We had a bedroom and the other bedroom was converted into an office, and then the kitchen was mixed with the front room. There really was not much space and led to tension. He continues and said she even uses an argument here where she suggests I'm gaslighting her for slamming 2 doors. As you may have guessed, this is an argument I actually showed previously where I provided screenshots above when speaking to a friend about the argument time. Then he attached a screenshot from earlier where he was indeed talking to his friend about this whole incident. He said, hey, we worked it out. It was a big misunderstanding. And she even thought it was funny, and now she's dying of laughter because how dumb the misunderstanding was. This was the very moment of speaking to my friend about what was going on and how I was so confused about it at the time, mainly due to the fact it was all being down to miscommunication. And the screenshot below is the beginning of the conversation when I addressed this. Then he attached that screenshot texting with his friend where he said, well, I really upset Kirsty. I am an idiot, lol. Didn't even mean to. I'm so bad at texting shit. His friend said it's okay. I just went and walked her back. He said, thanks for speaking to her. He said she seems to be okay now. He continued and said it was an argument over such a dumb thing. Of course it would be YouTube related. His friend said, are you okay? He said, not really, but whatever, just feel bad for her. Then the friend said, we didn't actually speak about it at all because I think she needed to take her mind off of it. And then he said it was just a miscommunication, mate. He said, as you can see in these DMs, I was regretful about how it was handled, but you can blatantly see this was miscommunication. My friend went and spoke to her to make sure she was okay, and as you saw in the DMs above, we ended up laughing about the whole thing. It was a tense argument, and from this moment, I learned that giving Kirsty space when she needed it after an argument was important. Hence, on the holiday, I left to give her space, even though she said I didn't need to. And yeah, if y'all remember back at that spa argument where she provided those screenshots, he said, it's effing cold outside. Just let me know when I can come back so we can talk. But sooner than later, I'm freezing. And she was like, well, I don't even know why you left. You didn't need to. Yeah, and then he says she uses these screenshots for further proof, and that's the attachments as she had showed in her original Google Doc upload files where she attached it on the left and said, it's all good living with an influencer until you get locked in your room for certain amounts of time on end while they're filming. And then that other one on the right there where it shows him sending that picture saying this is how I look at you, and then her saying versus how you look at me whenever you game. He continues to say, on the first image on the left, I admitted in my first document if Kirst was home, I would ask her to be quiet and try not to make noise, as it was a tiny apartment and the microphone would pick these things up. It was an unfortunate situation, but Kirst was a full-time student living in my place, and the way I paid the bills was via making YouTube videos. This is a very manipulative spin on things. We were in a difficult situation where I tried to make her safe by getting her out of a household, and this was one of the consequences. Me once or twice a week for an hour or so asking her to be quiet. If I didn't do this, I wouldn't have the bills to pay. Here is a tweet that he had provided from Kirst, and this was back in 2022, where she had said, to think that this time last year I was receiving daily calls from the police, women's aid, and uni to check that my male housemate hadn't punched me or tried it that day and that I was safe. This week I graduated and about to head home for Christmas with my boyfriend. He then goes on to say, this is a very sensitive situation for her. I understand her previous household before me. But this is proof as why I moved her in. I didn't want her to be in a household, and we regularly spoke about how there would be some issues with recordings as I have anxiety surrounding that, but this wasn't anything negative at the time, and Kirst was usually always understanding. I get it that it was frustrating for her, but this is a wild spin. And then he goes to show this DM again where he said, this is how I look at you, with Kenji looking at what looks to be a good breakfast. And then the screenshot of somebody going to punch somebody, and she said, versus how you look at me whenever you're gaming. He then says, this here isn't about recording, but this is referring to when she was interrupting me on a video game and I was telling her to stop. As you can see, she used a meme format. This was a lighthearted joke at the time, not really sure why this had been included. And I had said this in the last video that I had made talking about the situation when I did go over what Kirst had said, and I even said myself that her evidence she provided didn't really match up with the statements that she was making. So I feel like she either rushed it or was just coming from a very emotional stance in the situation and wasn't really paying attention to the factual evidence that she could gather. He continues, and now he's mentioning the weight topic, and he said, I genuinely don't even know what to say here, really. This is just a bizarre claim. Saying to me that I don't find fat people attractive and that I would break up with her if she gained too much weight. This is genuinely a really confusing claim to make, especially considering it's well documented I have my weight issues and have spoken about them lots on my social media. The comments about her eating also make no sense, considering she has tweets literally acknowledging I was basically a chef for her. And this is from a tweet of her saying, I got a boyfriend and a personal chef in one. And he said, and this is true. I would cook a lot for Kirsty and made sure she ate good meals and ate regularly. These are more baseless accusations designed to defame and make me look terrible. I have multiplied instances of providing Kirst with food and zero negative comments about it below. And here's a time where she had messaged him and said, hello, this is my Nando's order since you owe me one. Normal chicken wrap, not the double, medium, add cheese. A side of corn and 5 wings, medium. And then she said, I am in the bath, so please order when you'll be back and pretty please bring it to me if I am still in the bath with one of the pink drinks. Yours sincerely, a spoiled brat. And he said, ordered. And then she said, Nando's. So she was clearly excited about getting the food, and then he said yes. She said, I'm so excited. He said, it's on a plate. She said, fuck yes, door is open, thank you. Now here's another time when she said, when was that? He said, about an hour ago, I'll bring it to you in a minute. Would you like any food? She said, I don't know what we've got. He said, yogurt and fruit. She said, I'm just going to go to the toilet. He said, wait, just got to record an audio clip. She said, we don't have much fruit at the moment, I don't think. And then she said, okay. He said, it will only take a second. Here's another screenshot where she said, by the way, I can't have the banana bread as it's made with nuts at Starbucks, but thank you. He said, oh, for fuck's sake, I thought you'd like it. Didn't know it had nuts. My secret assassination attempt. Okay, that's why I was reading wrong. He said, I'm so sorry about that. He said, my secret assassination attempt failed. And then there's this one where she said, I haven't eaten today. And he said, I drooled everywhere. She said, gross, I'm starving. And then he said, we will get you food. He said, as you can see, I actually have proof showing that I would always be willing and wanting to bring her food with no negative connotations. And when searching quotes of what she had said, nothing comes up. Then he does provide the proof here where he said and typed in, already ate today, doesn't look healthy, and you don't want to be eating that, and nothing did pop up for any of that. He continues and said, once again, this is more fabrication of the truth. Literally, everything she has said in this part has no screenshots to back it, and in the Instagram story she posted referencing, I guess me, not finding fat people attractive comes after our breakup, when she was posting very negative lies about me on her TikTok regularly. He then goes on to say mental health. In this section, Kirsty says this. I told Fraser that I had depression very early on into knowing him. It is not something I like to hide, but at the time, it was a big hindrance on my life. I have always been transparent with everyone that I have dated about the way that my depression could impact me, as I think it is important. At the start, Fraser was understanding and supportive. After I moved in, however, whenever I would struggle and stay in bed, he would come in and lecture me about how lazy I was. That he wants to be with someone who is ambitious, and I apparently wasn't because I also struggle with depression. My life was going nowhere and it was embarrassing. He would go on and on. He would berate me for my mental health struggles throughout our relationship. Now, basically, what's accused here is that she moved in and everything went terrible, when that literally isn't true. The problem was our living situation was very difficult, and it was hard living in a workspace and a living space with 2 people and a dog. She even says in the DM below how she's feeling isn't because of me. And that seems to be true because right here she's bringing up the issue of space, saying, honestly, I don't like how messy my room gets when I have people stay because it feels so cramped. And then she says, how I'm feeling has got nothing to do with you or us. If you don't have depression, then you can never understand what it's like. I do just need my safe space with all of my things and comfort. Then in the next paragraph here, in the next screenshot he provided, it says, the space is yours and will always be yours because you've been there for so long. Like how you got a wardrobe for me but didn't even ask me if I liked it. When I asked if I could put up my vines when I moved in, you seemed uncomfortable with it. The flat is yours and will always be predominantly yours, which is completely fine, but knowing that I do just need to spend time in my space. He continued by saying, basically, as you can see, it was a very tough time for her. She was in a place that wasn't good for her because she'd moved to London where she knew nobody and also felt like the place she was in wasn't hers, which was understandable. But it wasn't like I wasn't receptive or accommodating to these issues, as you can see here. Then he responded in a text message to this saying, "I'm genuinely really sorry for making you feel like this isn't your own place. I am just repeating what I said in my audio message, and I think it mainly comes down to I am quite an overthinker and defensive person. As you can see from this, you're dealing with your own issues, nothing related to me, and I've just made it seem like I'm making it about myself because of overthinking, so I think it's something I personally need to work on." Then he continued to say, "When it comes to actually making you feel like this is your home, we can do that. And funnily enough, I am actually completely rearranging my place right now to make it more homey, which is kind of ironic, ha ha ha. I was then putting a bookcase in my room because I know you like that stuff, and was even putting a Vine thing on it because you said you like them, for fuck's sake. But I'll cancel the wardrobe, and tonight, if you want to, of course, you can find stuff that you want, send it to me, and we can get it." Then he continues and says, "I don't know if you noticed, but literally the other day I was looking at office spaces, and that's because I was planning on making my office not an office in a homely-ish room that you could use and maybe do your work in over the summer, etc. Like, I am really sorry I've not made it seem homely, but I am trying, and it's just something that I need to work on." He says, "When it comes to friends and stuff in London, I think it's something over time that'll develop, and I know you said you don't want me to pay for things. I want to pay for you to do pull stuff here so you can see and continue to doing stuff that just makes you feel more like yourself." He said, "Take all the time you need, and I'm really sorry for being an idiot. I hope you know you mean the absolute world to me." Then he says, "I was seriously trying my best in this time to make things better for her. It was a seriously tough moment, and I was really doing everything I could to help. And in terms of actual referencing her depression, this is what I said after she had moved in. Yeah, of course, for me, it's just about learning that, to be honest, because I don't have depression and I haven't experienced what it's like or how it affects you personally. So I'll just try my best to be more understanding and not get worried. It's something I've done in ETC. You take all the time you need to yourself, though, even if it is a while. If it helps you feel better, then I'm absolutely fine. Just waiting to see you if it means you start to feel more yourself. If there's anything I can do to help, though, be sure to ask." And then he said, "Haha, I won't get a shit mirror. You just need to pick one. So go on Wayfair or any other website tonight and find a good one. I'll send you Kenj in the post to make you feel better." Now he continues to say in this doc file, "I seriously don't understand how this could be construed into the way she has in her document, accusing me of some of the things she did with no proof. Kirsty, as she was said, she was dealing with a lot, and it was not because of me." Then he goes on to show a screenshot of what she said again, saying how if he's never had depression, he can never truly understand what it's like. And he says this tells a completely different story to what was referenced in the document. "There were days when we had plans, and those plans were canceled due to Christy having a bad day when she could not get out of bed, and I never berated her for these things and only tried to help." This comes into the next part where she speaks about therapy, as throughout the relationship we did speak about therapy and I offered to pay for it every time, but Kirsty turned it down every time. Then he uses a tweet that she had made saying, "It's nights like these that I'm so grateful for my boyfriend because if I didn't have him, I would be nothing." He said, but bearing in mind this was also after she had moved in and things like this were available on her public Twitter. Yes, realizing things weren't actually the way you perceived them to be is originally a thing, but the evidence I have shown is overwhelming that she has manipulated and lied about another thing. I don't doubt Kirsty deals with a lot, and I will never take that away from her, but I always did my best to support her. Hence, I never put pressure on her to pay for anything or do anything. In times, I would try to gently suggest things that might help, like going for a walk with me, etc., but never anything that wasn't just me generally trying to help." Then he says here, "I don't deny Kirsty was going through things about dealing with Kenji and the enclosed environmentally we were in. It was extremely stressful, but I was as supportive as I could have possibly been in every situation, even to the point of where we moved out into a 3-bedroom apartment so we would have more space and she could hopefully start feeling better." Now he continues to say, but some of Kirsty's own words contradict herself here. As you can see here, it says this, and she stated how being with him was like being trapped. "I had to break up with him March 2022, September 2022, October 2022, and November 2022. Every time it was promises of change, that he would do better, that things would be better for us, painting a picture of how I was his family and he loved me. Said he didn't want to lose me, but things never changed." So he continues to say, so she's claiming pretty much every single time she would break up with me, it would be like she's trapped. Yet before that, she said I was the one threatening to break up with her. And it says here in March 2023, he came into the bedroom and told me that I either had to go to therapy and get back on a medication, or he would break up with me. And that was particularly a dark time for me. We were constantly fighting. He was belittling me all of the time and had knocked all my confidence. He continues to say here, now, of course, there are different dates here, but these things really don't make much sense to me. Now, yes, there were moments In the relationship, we almost broke up, but we spoke about these things and things got better after working on things, hence statements like this. Then he references another tweet she made where she said, I'm starting to find my footing in life again and I'm getting so many more bursts of productivity. It's so nice to feel like I'm alive again here in November 2022. And another from April 2022 where she said, it's nights like these that I'm so grateful for my boyfriend because if I didn't have him, I would be nothing. Then another tweet that says here in May 2022, I want to wake Frey up because even though he is right next to me, I miss him. Now he goes on to say, of course, these don't represent the overall happiness in our relationship, but we had bad and good moments like all relationships. He continued to say the closest we genuinely came to breaking up to properly before we did was in October, and we worked on things, and despite Kirsty saying things never improved, she admitted in text I used in my previous response that is not the case. He shares a screenshot of a message here that says, it's sad for me, this is from Kirsty by the way, she said, it's sad for me that you don't remember the nice times that we've had over the last few months, things were getting better. And then the dog attack happened and everything backslides. So she did admit that things were getting better and said that they were trying to fix the communication issue. Which, that's what I said in my last video. I feel like communication was the biggest flop to this relationship. He continues here and he says, this is her trying to convince me to get back with her shortly after we broke up in 2023, trying to convince me of all the good times we had in the last few months and that obviously everything backslided after a horrific accident. The truth is, I did regularly suggest therapy to Kirsty, but I did not say I would break up with her if she didn't get therapy. As Kirsty refused therapy and I did not break up with her, she broke up with me. It makes no logical sense to claim in March 2023 that I would break up with her if she didn't get into therapy/medicated. When nothing came from that, we broke up because she broke up with me, showing this is a lie. He continues and says, but also the idea of being trapped after she broke up with me put so much pressure on me to get back with her. I felt so unbelievably trapped by her in this breakup, which is pretty ironic considering her claims. Here's screenshots he shared where she is saying, do you think you can come over or I can come to you at some point today? Really, really miss you. I hope we can talk at some point. I understand that you're busy or maybe ignoring me. And then she was saying here, there at the very bottom, I know that if we just talk, we can most likely sort stuff out for the better. Here's another one where she's saying it hurts her she can't be there for him and that she really misses him. Then here's the one from June 2023 and it says, thanks for letting me crash in your cinema trip. It was nice spending time with you. Hope you have fun at your gig tomorrow. Then she said, I love you, Frey. I hate this. I wish you would just come home and we can talk this out. Now he's saying, as you can see, there was a lot of pressure on me in this breakup and I felt very trapped given our living situation. Of course, I understood it to be a very difficult time as there was nothing more I could do than allow Kirsty to live with me until she could financially afford to move out. But messages like this regularly put me under so much pressure and it gave me a feeling of being trapped. Here's a text message he sent to her where he said, hello, sorry if this is out of nowhere, but I think we really need to talk about when you think you're going to move out by. I know I said you can have as much time as you need, but I really need a time period to when. Because I can't lie right now, I feel like I'm in a major limbo and I didn't expect this to go on for so long and it's severely affecting my mental health. I'm going to suggest you find a place and I will help you pay a big chunk of the rent or at least the first few months if it speeds up the process. I just can't keep going on not knowing when it's going to change. Then he says here towards the bottom, I want to be able to move on from my life and I feel like I have done my best to help even after things. And as I said, I'm more than happy to pay for moving stuff and rent in another place because right now it just feels like a permanent thing and it's got me feeling like my life is in limbo. Please understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to hurt you or upset you, but I also need to start thinking about my well-being. Then she replied and she said, it's not a forever thing. I just need to save up money, which I'm doing. I can't accept you paying rent for me because I can't rely on that to happen. This is a good point too that he made. He said, even when offering to pay for her to have her own place and away from me, she turned it down. I offered her a way out where I would be the guarantor, so I legally have to pay for her rent. And she turned these things down. If anyone was trapped in this situation, it was me. Now, this here says, in terms of these screenshots here in October 2023, she references wanting to not be here anymore in a text. And I'm just going to pause this over the screen and let y'all read the text for yourself. He said, now this is an argument of me getting very annoyed with Kirsty as she was starting posting about my friends on her social media, and whilst at this point Kirsty had been posting about me in a negative way every now and again, but this way was too far for me and she had been attacking people who did not even know her. He did say here, though, that the wanting to not be here anymore, that saying that they would just use that as a way, both of them mutually, to describe something or really feeling like shit in the moment. So it wasn't like an actual attempt was being made at the time. It was more so just like a throwaway term that they would use. And here are those messages. Feel free to pause the screen to read them. He says, now, obviously, I'm not dumb. I know Kirsty was struggling, but based on what she was saying in that message to me, isn't her telling me that she tried to take her own? And based on all the messages before of Kirsty saying how much she wants to fix things and how much she loves me, I really can't take this and say, I am the reason for her doing this. I do not think it's fair. What happened with Kenji was absolutely terrible, but this is not fair. He then goes to say, yes, this is the DM that stemmed the argument. He texted her and said, hey, I don't appreciate you making TikToks shitting on me. In the past, you've told me that you don't post about me, yet you so obviously do. You also have sent me plenty of texts about being fine with people coming over. And I also don't appreciate a TikTok about a friend who wasn't even wearing my jumper, but wearing her own. You live in this flat with me. You complain about me 24/7, and I don't expect to get on. But the behavior of accusing me of sleeping with someone when it's obviously none of your business, it's just outrageous. I would never sleep with someone when you're here, and I've had friends stay, found plenty before. And now you're just not publicly slating me, but slating my friends. I don't appreciate it, and I don't think it's fair. I'm trying my best to support you and help you. I said to you in August, I feel uncomfortable bringing people over, and this is exactly why. What if I do start dating someone in the next month? Are they meant to be publicly barraged too? Not fair on my friends, especially not fair on a friend who I've hung out plenty of times and was watching a movie with me. I shouldn't have to explain to my friendships or relationships, and this is just unbelievably unfair and wrong. He said, I was very angry with her, and personally, I think rightfully so. As you can see, I'm referencing her accusing me of sleeping with someone in the flat when she was there and slating friends who had no idea who she really even is. This made me feel even more trapped. I seriously did not know what to do in this situation, despite being told by Kirsty that she was actually okay with me getting into a new relationship. This is a text between Frasier and Kirsty where she's texting him and saying, Frasier, please know that if you want people around, you can do so. It's not going to be weird. If you want to get into a relationship, it's not going to bother me. I'm speaking to people, and the fact that I live with my ex doesn't hinder that at all. Frasier, I don't tweet about you. Stop making out that I'm slagging you off when I'm not. I do care about your mental well-being, but you have to understand I'm doing all that I can right now. He states, as you can imagine, things were getting even more stressful from here because I started having other people around. At the time, just friends, and it led to horrible arguments with Kirsty, which admittedly were very blunt from me and possibly out of context could seem nasty, but this was because I was feeling trapped. I was dealing with sexual pressure a few months prior, consistent begging of me to take her back, telling me it would be okay for me to see other people. Then after I did this, she told me she actually was not comfortable with this. This was an extremely mentally draining situation to be in, but let's address the DMs below. He attached this from Kirsty's original Google Doc upload trying to expose him, and this is where she said he also wouldn't leave me alone after we broke up, constantly texting me and talking to me. I asked him to stop a few times as it wasn't fair with the state I was in, and I couldn't let go. He said, now Kirsty has taken things out of context here. In the top DM she has to me based on her wording, made it look like I DM'd her and she was trying to get me to stop, but it was her double messaging me. And here's the screenshot proof of that. And he said, now obviously she was doing what she said and asking me to stop talking to her, but to say I was constantly texting her is just such a lie. Now he goes on to say, now yes, I did try and speak to her, but the reason for that is we're living together and I wanted to make things easy on both of us. I wanted to try and make a difficult living situation a little bit better without us having to constantly fight and argue. There is really no easy way around any of this. It's a bit of an impossible breakup. I personally thought trying to be friendly would be the best way to navigate this awkward living situation. And yeah, I was wrong in that. He said, now let's address this. And for TOS reasons, I'm not going to read this out loud, but y'all feel free to go ahead and check it out. I'll leave it paused here for just a moment. Now he says here, honestly, this was a bit of a confusing thing to read. Here it would have been a simple situation of me knocking on her door and asking to come in, either to get something that needed to be washed up. I probably made 2 trips in to pick things up, either that or I was looking for the remote that controls the electronic blinds. This was nothing malicious, and I'm really not even sure why it's mentioned. To me, this is just a lie about an innocent situation. And he attached a screenshot of him here saying, hi, where's the remote for the blind? She said, does Aiden want to stay in my bed? He said, no, it's fine, I just need the remote. And she said, I'm not going to be back as we're all staying at Meg, so if he wants a bed, he's welcome to it. It's in my room somewhere. I can never remember where I put it. And then she said just thinking he might feel more comfy in a bed than a sofa. He continues and says these DMs here show that the remote being in her room was a regular issue, but also shows that in September we were friendly enough where she would suggest that my friends could not only stay in her room but also stay in her bed. I really don't think this would be the case if things were as hostile as she described them. To me, personally, the situation with me and Kirst, we weren't exactly on the best of terms. But up until about around October, we were still having open communication. Like these DMs here, he said like this, it was relatively friendly, and the DM says, Frey, this place is a tip. He said, yeah, I know, I'm gonna tidy it when I get back. She said, does Kenji need anything? I was gonna ask if he needs a walk, and then I remembered it's 31 degrees out. Oop, he said, can you check, are my keys at home? She said, where would you put them? He said, the side next to the door. She said, they're not here. I looked in your office and room as well. You must have them. He said, on my way, gonna need Buzz back in. She said, give me some time, I'm on the toilet. This woman's a bathroom goer. Sorry, this is totally off like the context now, but this has been like the 9th DM I've seen so far of her saying she's in the restroom. Anyways, he continues and said in that screenshot she offers to buy Kenji something from the shop and even offers to walk him. It's very clear that we were on good terms, but the reality is things started going much more hostile after I started inviting a woman friend over to hang out. It was noticeable how hostile things were after that, and these screenshots I think prove that because there had to be a reason it went from a relatively civil environment of her even offering to walk Kenji to massive arguments that I showed previously. And he attached this of her, I think, on Instagram photo where she said I would sit outside, sometimes walk around in the area after work because I felt so uncomfortable being near him. I felt safer and more comfortable on the streets than in the flat with him. He goes on to say, whilst it was an uncomfortable environment the entire time living together, this is an unfair spin on things. Okay, this has been part 1 going through the Google Doc file. Do not worry, do not stress. By tomorrow, I'm going to have the second part of this Google Doc file uploaded, so feel free to just let this one sink in, okay? Because we have taken in a lot of information today, and he has debunked a lot of shit that she has said, and he's only going to debunk more because next we're going to be talking about the financial situation that she had to complain about, and we're going to be addressing Kenji. Now, he did save the Kenji situation for the end of the Google Doc file because there is so much proof that he has there, and the whole situation is just absolutely freaking bizarre. I cannot believe Kirsty did this to herself. What a L. She has, though, I do want to address this and say she has been a victim in the past, and that's why he moved her out of the home that she was in prior. I think that she should have took him up on his therapy offer that he was going to pay for therapy to help her get some help. I think that if she was mentally in a better spot, this relationship could have worked out.